Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep, gotcha.
Going live. Here we go. 5, 4, 3. Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Today is a little bit of a different show. We are, there we go, getting social media hooked up here. We are interviewing Dr. John Edeen. Get this up here. There we go. Dr. Edeen was with me this past weekend in Detroit for the women's shooting event that Rick Ector puts on every year. And I wanted to bring Dr. Edeen on because, well, we were side by side. He was in one bay, I was in the next on Saturday. And he's got a couple interesting stories we want to talk with him about from the weekend. Dr. Edeen, I want to start off with, how did you, this is not your first time being there. How did you get roped into doing this?
Right. Yeah, it was a pretty strong rope too, I'll tell you. This was my second one this year. I met Tanisha Newton, who is Rick's kind of right-hand person in this event. At the Florida Carry event down in Denellen, Florida, a few years ago. And so she told me about the event and pretty much twisted my arm until I decided, okay, I'll go. So I went. And as Paul, as you know, after doing this, you want to go back and do it again because it's such a rewarding It's such a rewarding event to see the look on the faces of these women when not only can they hit the target, but they start to make groups and start making one big hole in the paper rather than, a shotgun scatter, or if they're making mistakes and they're missing, you can correct their mistakes and get them hitting in the center by the time you're done. Now we're fairly limited because you only get 20 shots, and you start off with single shots just to kind of get them familiarized. The way it works is they actually get a range safety brief before they even enter the range. And then they go one-on-one with an instructor. And the range that we were at, there were 20 bays. So there were 20 instructors. So we were teaching 20 women at a time. And there was no time limit, let's say. Everybody got kind of individual instruction. I think over the weekend, I probably taught about 15 women. And I was pretty happy with how they did. I had one woman at the end of the first day. She shot about 3 shots, and then she just couldn't do it anymore. And, I talked to some of the other people and they said that that's not an unusual thing. In fact, they recounted one from a few years ago that did kind of the same thing and then came back the next year and did 20. And so, sometimes there's a lot of emotional overlay. There's a lot of, stuff going on that we don't know about. We have no clue whether it's abuse, whether it's, assault with a firearm themselves, or maybe a family member was murdered with a firearm. So these are all things that we don't know about. So now we try to be patient. We try to, treat everybody with a gentle touch, so to speak. In fact, one of the things that I tell them is, A, we're going to be safe. B, you're going to have some fun. And C, you're going to learn something today. And those are my 3 goals. And that's what I try to pass on to them. The safety thing, obviously, is to try to allay their fears. And then the fun thing, and you can see after the first few shots, they get the fun thing after that. And then once they start hitting the paper and putting the bullets where they want it to go, then they realize, I have learned something. So it's all a phenomenal experience. If you're an instructor and you want to do this, go ahead and contact Rick Ector and for next year's event. I'm sure it's going to be sometime in August next year. But it's really good. I mean, I think we taught about 1,200 women in 2 ranges over 2 days.
Yeah.
That was fun. Yeah, it was fun.
I wish I could have made it.
Maybe next year.
Certainly. Block off that as soon as we have a definite weekend for next year, I'll be sure to let you know, Matt, and block that weekend off because I've been saying it for days now since I got back. My heart is full. I get a battery recharge when I do Gun Rights Policy Conference, AMCON, when I do NRA annual meeting. I get a battery recharge. I get a heart recharge when I did this. So
that's just fantastic. And not only that, but amongst the instructors, it's also a social event too. We have a good time.
Yeah.
We socialize, we interact, we network. You meet new people every year, and so it's good for we're getting something back besides the teaching. We're also getting networking and interacting and just having a good weekend. I mean, it's a fun weekend.
Yeah,
and you get to steal stuff from other instructors.
Right.
Yeah,
like I bought those front and rear sight plastic things that you can
the
overlay
laminated things. Yes.
Right. Just to teach a sight alignment, sight picture to the students, and I think those visual kind of things, we pass those along. I think somebody brought in a piece of paper that had the good sight alignment, sight picture, and then things that were off, so you can point that out. So there was a lot of good instructing stuff that went on there.
That's cool. Yeah, I had a class already scheduled that weekend out of state, so I wasn't able to move it around or anything. Rick was bummed. We've had him on my show, both the live show and the pre-recorded. So it was kind of next year for sure. Sure. Get it on the calendar.
John, I want to talk to you about a couple of ladies that went through your lane that this past weekend. First one I absolutely know about because I was right there. You had the Republican nominee for governor for Michigan come through your lane and actually work with you on Saturday. And everybody I knew about it because there was a whole cadre of press that came in behind her.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because, Patrick Collins is the one that kind of, he's the traffic control guy. So just, when somebody comes in, you go see John. So I introduced myself and I asked, I said, I'm John. What's your name? Her name is Tudor. You mean like the Tudor house? She goes, yes. And so I said, well, what kind of shooting experience do you have? She goes, well, I've got my CPL. I said, okay, so you've done a little shooting. So I went over, the safety stuff and how to hold the gun and all that kind of stuff. And I loaded one in and gave her the gun, kind of checked her grip and stance and all that kind of stuff. And she puts the first one right through the X-ring. I go, okay. So we loaded up a couple more, put a couple more in there, boom, boom, right through the X-ring. Finally, I just, loaded up the rest of the magazine. I said, go ahead, just keep shooting. Let's see, and she pretty much put the center of the target out. So after that, we had another magazine of 10. And I said, okay, now we're going to work on cadence and speed, because obviously she had her marksmanship down. So we did a little of that. But during that whole time, there's flashes going off behind us. I'm like, what the heck's going to turn around? And there's 3 guys with cameras and a guy with a video camera. I'm going, I'm thinking like, yeah, is there like somebody doing a documentary or, what's going on? I didn't put 2 and 2. I'd heard her name before, but I didn't put 2 and 2 together. But her name is Tudor Dixon, and she was the Republican. She won the primary, actually. She's the Republican nominee for the governor of Michigan, and she's going against Whitmer. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah. She's very, very nice lady. She was, we had a good time. She actually has a video on her campaign site, I guess. So she's very personable. I think hopefully she'll do well. I talked to my insider. Yeah, I talked to my insider who writes actually most of the bills, and she said that she will sign any pro-gun bill that gets to her desk. So hopefully that will be a positive thing for the state of Michigan.
They could use some positive things.
Oh, for sure. And from the top, right? I think they have both houses are Republicans.
Yes.
So they get a Republican.
Yeah, right. And they get a Democrat governor that blocks everything. So if they want to get something through, they got to clear that logjam. So hopefully Michigan is in for some good stuff in the future.
Definitely. Yeah, she seems very well spoken. I was checking out her Facebook page. Seems very well spoken, and got her stuff together. She's done a lot of news interviews, Tucker Carlson and such. So it'd be good for Michigan for sure.
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping so.
Comment from Gun Websites. It's great to hear the opportunity for the instructors being together is put to good use. Well, a lot of that, and that all rests on the shoulders of Rick Ector and Tanisha. Those two do a fabulous job getting this thing put together. We all just kind of they say show up here, and we all just kind of show up. They say do this, and we all kind of smile and do that. A lot of this is on Tanisha Newton and Rick Ector. They are the ones. Rick Ector have basically put this together out of force of will, and I'm absolutely grateful to be a part of it. But
really genius event.
Yes, and not trying to spread information before it's supposed to be spread. I talked with Rick on Saturday and look for good things to come out of this, and not necessarily that it stays in Detroit. Let's put it that way. I'm gonna be working more on that, and when I can officially release something, I will. But good things are going to be happening. John, I want to talk to you. Next one, Sunday, there was a young lady that you had, and when you were actually watching the show on Tuesday and brought this up in a comment. I wasn't aware of it, but you had a young lady on Sunday who apparently had been shot 2 weeks before she attended the event and still came to learn how to shoot.
Right. In fact, she didn't even tell me till after we were done. So, again, we just did all the normal stuff. I got her shooting. And once we've completed our 20 shots, she turns to me and she says, I was shot 2 weeks ago. And I said, where? And she points to her right chest wall, says, here.
Jeez.
I said, does that hurt when you shoot? Was it hurting? She goes, yeah, it was hurting some. I said, was this worth it? She says, absolutely. And when I told Rick this, he says, this is exactly why I'm doing this event, because women are victimized and we need to teach them how to defend themselves. And I think that that's exactly why we're doing what we're doing. And I think we all have that calling.
Most definitely. So now, when she told you she was shot, did you at any point tell her you're a doctor? Surgeon?
On my name tag had Dr. John Edeen on it. So,
okay.
Yeah, it was, in fact, usually when Patrick introduces me, he says, here's Dr. John. So she knew I was a doctor, but, the girl, I'm sure she hurt when she was shooting, because after you get shot in the chest wall, you hurt for a while. It's not, sometimes you get a broken rib, she may have had a chest tube, who knows, what kind of medical intervention she had. Obviously, it didn't really have time, and it wasn't a place in a loud range where things are going bang, bang, bang all the time. But, it just goes to show you that where there's a will, there's a way. And this girl saw that there was an event happening that she could, get introduced. And then I also had a card for one of the female instructors in the area. So I gave that to her. I said, if you need more instruction, please contact this person, and hopefully she can get you plugged in. And so,
awesome.
I think this, this is just a phenomenal event. Not everybody's going to follow up, but there's going to be a certain percentage of people who go through this event that will start taking this seriously and practice and get their own firearm and get some instruction. And I think that's really the whole purpose behind this thing, is to allow women to do, get started, let's put it that way, so that they can take their own safety into their own hands and not be dependent on somebody else.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, I was just going to put out we've got a comment that is going right at where Dr. Edeen was going, and PNW Woods asks, is there any anecdotal data of how many of the 1,200 are planning to buy guns? And
that's exactly what I was.
I'm going to say for myself, because I trained several on Saturday. I didn't keep tabs of who is, who is definitely going to be going on, who is not going to be going on with this. It was very much you were introduced, you find out what, what I did. I tried to find out, have you ever shot a gun before? And the majority of mine had never touched a firearm before, the majority of the people that came to me on Saturday. And then, are you right-handed? Are you left-handed? And then we started. Afterwards, I kind of showed them where the door was to exit, and the next one came in. And so
Right.
I didn't have a lot of contact afterwards. So, yeah, I couldn't even tell you. I do know, with the excitement, I would be surprised if a lot of them don't move forward in their journey with firearms.
Right. I've had two bring their own guns with them in. So one had a 380 EZ, Smith & Wesson EZ. I taught her how to use that. And the other one had a Sky pistol.
Okay.
And so I had two women bring their own guns in. And last year, there were several people who bought guns that I witnessed. I don't know about this year. I wasn't out there very much. But I know for a fact that I saw at least two women buying guns last year. So
it's pretty.
Maybe a significant percentage.
I see that in my classes. I'll get a lot of people that'll come with something in the news. Yeah, some politician says they're going to take your guns, stuff like that. Then I'll usually see a huge increase or uptick in people signing up for classes. But even then, the percentage after the fact that actually go and get their pistol license, you'd be interested to know how many people actually come back and have to take the class again, not just once because the certificate expires depending on the county, but twice. I've had some people come back 3, 4, 5 times over many, many years because they just never went through the process. I'm like, wow, you really must like my class.
Yeah. No, I've seen that in other places too.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to say this. I have been through a lot of firearms training, and I've been through what most people would consider beginner's training a lot of times. No matter the level of training I go to, when I go through that class, I always pick something up. I never have gone to training where I've considered it wasted time or wasted money.
Well, when you think about us as instructors, we're always trying to be better. I mean, Doc, you alluded to the fact that you learn something from other people, and we take things from different instructors, different classes. I mean, if we can learn one thing from a class we take, then that's valuable, even if it's something we can use to go back and teach to our students or better ourselves as instructors, so we present a better product to our students. I mean, that's what I find. That's a joy I find in taking classes from other instructors. Learn one thing, a minimum.
I do want to get we've got some news to get to today. We've
let's do it.
Yeah, the first story I've got up was actually a story I was going to use the other day, but we didn't have time to get to it. This off of AmmoLand. Iowa court has ruled that Iowa's preemption law does mean something, and Monroe County state law says that if you're going to create a gun-free zone, you must provide protection for the people in that gun-free zone. Monroe County thought, well, yeah, that doesn't apply to us. They put up gun-free zone signs, but there was no armed security. There was no metal detectors. There was nothing to prevent a bad guy from going in. And so people started, let me bring the story back up. There was a gun rights group, an Iowa gun rights group brought that up to the county's attention and tried saying, Iowa law says you've got to do this. And Monroe County ended up suing them, trying to get them to shut up. Well, it turns out when the lawsuits were all finished, Monroe County owed that gun rights group $100,000 and had to take down the gun-free zone signs.
That's awesome.
Good.
It's a win for David, right? David and Goliath.
Yes, exactly. And
it's sad. I mean, they use the tax money. They use taxpayers' money to be able to stifle taxpayers. Go figure.
The group that was sued and eventually won against Monroe County was the Iowa Firearms Coalition. I want to give them credit because when somebody does do something good, I try to give them credit, even if it's the National Association for Gun Rights, which, I mean, blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while when it comes to them. But no, Iowa Firearms Coalition did a good job with this one, and congratulations to them. And I hope the $100,000 helps them out tremendously.
Yeah, reading the article, it sounded like they were able to pay all their bills off, and they actually had a little bit extra left over, which is awesome. A little bit extra left over. The attorneys probably get the most.
Next one, this is mostly a video that over the last few days has gone absolutely viral. That California shop, the California shop owner he's watching. He's in his store. He's got security feed up behind the counter. He sees a car pull up, sees the balloons start to go up as they're putting masks on outside. Gets his shotgun ready as a young guy runs in with the AR drawn. Guy puts a shot into him. The young man runs out. He shot my arm off. Turns out there are people. I seen a news story today from CBS News. There are people driving from all over California to go to this store to support this 80-year-old guy who, by the way, had a heart attack because of the stress of the event. Thank goodness he survived and he's okay. He's back at work today, and this happened, I believe, on Monday. But yeah, self-defense and defending yourself against bad guys, that turns out to be popular even in California, guys.
Well, being prepared for it too. Some people just, they get stuck in that mindset or that window of, I can't believe this is happening to me. This can't be happening. No, why? It must be a Halloween. Must be a prank. Is it April Fool's? Is it Halloween time? And they just get caught in this funnel, and then it's too late. It's too late to respond, or the response is too late, and they perish or something to that extent. So, like you both were alluding to earlier, training, get the training, have the experience, know how to use the tool that you have so that you can defend yourself. He saw the writing on the wall way ahead of time, Paul, just like you said. And that's kudos to him at 80, a lot of life experience right there. So hopefully we can teach some of our younger people to not just hear fireworks and think it's fireworks, or hear gunshots and think it's fireworks, Yeah,
you got to wonder if he was in the Korean War or in Vietnam or something too. These guys, those guys I've seen in action, they get it. There's no messing around. You see somebody coming at you with a rifle, don't wait for them to shoot you. You shoot them first and get it over with. And intervene, sure. and those guys don't play games.
And be like Han. Han shot first. So right. And this guy shot first. He didn't wait for the guy to get a round off. As soon as he was in, he had a clear line of fire. Bang! That shot was gone.
Yeah, and that guy had that rifle shouldered, so it's not like there was any. It's not like he was doing an open carry demonstration.
Right.
This guy had the rifle up and shouldered, and that's a threat. Boom.
I just did a security guard class, and I was explaining to them, profiling and stuff. You can't just look at somebody and go, well, they're wearing a hoodie, so they're bad. No, but if they're wearing a hoodie and they got a gun, or they're wearing a hoodie and a long trench coat over top of that, and they're walking kind of funny as if they got a shotgun underneath it. Well, you start adding all these things together. This guy's got a shouldered AR and he's putting a mask on. Hello, McFly. Things are going to get bad.
Yeah, they call that a clue.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, last story for today. This one off of ABC News. Interesting story. Interesting title on this one. Supreme Court ruling makes open season on U.S. gun laws, and I wish the article itself were balanced. Really, it's not. But a couple.
Are you surprised?
Yeah. I want to get a couple quotes from the story itself. The decision handed out in June already has led one judge to temporarily block a Colorado town from enforcing a ban on the sale and possession of certain semi-automatic weapons. The first major gun decision in more than a decade, the ruling could dramatically reshape gun laws in the U.S., even as a series of horrific mass shootings pushes the issue back into the headlines. Here's the first quote. The gun rights movement has been given a weapon of mass destruction. It will annihilate approximately 75% of the gun laws eventually, said Evan Knappen, a New Jersey gun rights attorney.
I love Evan.
Yeah, we quote Evan here all the time. I hope to get him on the air. But yeah, I'm kind of with Evan. I don't know if we're going to get all the way back to the Gun Control Act of 1934, but I'm hoping we do.
75% is a great amount of gun laws that have been pulled back. But
it's a good start.
Yeah, it's a start.
Exactly
right.
But it won't affect New York where I'm at. Our government.
And then a couple more quotes, and again they heavily quote the other side. This one, we will see a lot of tax dollars and government resources that should be used to stop gun crime being used to defend gun laws that are life-saving and wildly popular, said Jonathan Lowry, chief counsel and vice president at Brady, the gun control group.
Yeah, he's smoking something.
It ain't a smoking gun, that's for sure.
No, I don't think what he's smoking are Marlboros. Let's put it that way.
No. The thing is wildly popular where? In the big cities run by Democrats. Even in New York State, 90% of the geography is red. It's only the big cities that control, the legislature and the governorship. And so all the people in all the red counties are having their rights violated. Look at all these big states. Look at, Illinois, California. It's the big cities that control everything. And, as long as the Democrats are in control, they're going to be pushing all this unconstitutional stuff. And it's going to take the Second Amendment Foundation and other organizations like that to challenge all these laws, to put them in the trash can. And unfortunately, they're using taxpayer money, like we talked about, to take our rights away. And then more of us taxpayers are going to have to donate to SAF in order to undo all this carnage. And the problem is, these guys aren't held personally responsible. There's a federal law. It's 18 USC 241, 242 about deprivation of rights under color of law. I think once we get the Democrats out of the administrative branch, we need to start going after these places with this law. We need to go after some people and start putting them in jail for violating everybody's rights. These are civil rights. Remember, the Second Amendment is a civil right. And so we need to really go after, we need to start playing hardball with these people because they are flaunting the Constitution. They think that they can do this forever, but until they get personally taken out, or they have to defend themselves with their own money, that's how we're going to get this thing fixed.
Yeah, and then one more quote from that story, then we'll get to comments after that. But one more quote from that story. Adam Skaggs, chief counsel and policy director at the Giffords Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence, predicted that when the dust settles, only laws, quote, along the margins will eventually be struck down. Most judges are going to see these for what they are, which is overreaching and lacking any merit, he said. Overreaching and lacking any merit. That's what I would consider most gun laws.
Agreed.
Touché. Doc, you said something about playing hardball, and that really makes me just think about these politicians. We've got politicians that are rhinos, Republican in name only, and party-wise, they all suck in that sense, right? But then we have the Republicans who basically just are, we really don't want to stir away, we don't want to stir up the pot and stuff like that. No, we need to stir up the pot. Look what they're doing. I mean, the assault weapons ban that they're pushing for, that they're trying to revive from the 90s, is coming. The one that our President Biden had actually put forward back then and got passed when he was a senator. Now they basically revived that. It'll probably stall in the Senate, but what happens if they win more seats back in the Senate coming up? Yeah, who knows? I mean, that's showing, that's the writing on the wall right there. For them to get that far and have that much support for it and have it to pass the House, and now it's going towards the Senate. Who knows what kind of deals are they going to make? Some of these placid, lightweight Republicans sit behind there and go, well, okay, we'll give you this one if you give us that. And they make deals, or they package it with another law that has nothing to do with it so that they can pass it, so that the Republicans have to vote for it. Otherwise, they look like they're not pro-law enforcement or not pro-military. It's ridiculous. Sorry. Soapbox.
No worries. Pete over at Gun Websites, when you take $16 million from the community each year, you can afford to sue for $100,000 occasionally.
Taxation without representation?
Yeah. And then going to what Dr. Edeen was saying about the popularity only being in large cities, DJ Plain Eye says, well, same in some medium cities like Omaha. Omaha is, at least the laws are rabidly anti-gun. I don't know if the popularity of those laws, I don't know what the popularity of them is like.
Yeah, Paul has some experience with that, by the way, folks, if you don't know his story.
Well, I don't know the popularity among the people among those laws, but I know the politicians love those laws.
Yeah. It's all about power.
For sure. Not about the gun.
And then one more from... Go ahead. Go ahead, Matt.
I was saying not about gun control, it's about control.
Right.
Power.
Yeah. Pete over at Gun Websites, question, is there any national level campaign to focus on the Second Amendment politicians assisting them to run and attain office instead of relying on courts lobbying? That used to be done by the NRA. I guess
they're tied up a little bit.
I'm going to leave that there. SAF does have the Citizens Committee for the right to keep and bear arms. That is the focus there. SAF does lawsuits. SAF does this program and the Polite Society podcast. SAF is starting to get involved in media. Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms does the political side, but it's certainly not my expertise. NRA used to do that. GOA does it a bit.
I know the USCCA has come up with a political action wing, and Clint Macro, my co-host on Meet the Pressers, he's involved in that some. So I know that they're trying to take up where the NRA's kind of pulled back on it because of all the lawsuits the NRA is going through and stuff. So hopefully there is a void in that sense. We definitely need to have a level come in and say, okay, kind of like the NRA used to do and rate politicians, how they're pro-gun and whatnot. But that didn't work great for our governor in New York State. She got a positive rating for the NRA when she was she was back when she was whatever she was before she became the assistant lieutenant governor. So sometimes you find it and help weed them out. Sometimes you don't. But I always say, look at the politicians, how they vote, not just what they say, because they're going to tell you whatever they want to tell you to get elected or reelected. Look at how they vote. Their voting record matched up to what they say. If that matches, okay, you kind of got a good litmus test of who they are, what they stand for. Other than that, I mean, that's my biggest thing. I'll ask them right out, like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? What do you think of this? What are your views? And then I'll compare that to actually what their charter is. And if it matches, then okay, then I say that might be a good person to vote for. That's usually how I check it.
All right, on our way out, because we're already late. On our way out, I want to get this one up. Where it is, there we go. DJ Play Nice, U.S. Senate contact page, and gives the link there over on the YouTube side. I also want to put this up. U.S. Capitol Switchboard 202-224-3121. We need to be contacting our senators. The assault weapons ban cleared the House. It's not been introduced in the Senate yet. We want to stop it from ever even getting introduced. The way you do that is you call your senator now, even if it's Chuck Schumer. I said the other day on the air, if Chuck Schumer's office gets a couple 100,000 people calling them saying, stop this, don't do this, he's going to hear that.
Yeah.
But call your senators, both of them, and let them know you do not want this to move forward. The time to get on it is now, not when they're trying to tally the votes. Agreed.
They might not even make it. They might not even vote on it if they get enough buzz, if you will. This is the time to get on your soapbox so these elected officials know that what the actual constituents want or don't want in this case.
All right. Before we take off, John, if you would please, we haven't even brought up Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership. Could you give us the 30-second elevator speech about that and what you folks do?
Sure. We're a Second Amendment gun rights group of physicians and other healthcare providers, scientists, and just regular people. What we do is we look at some of the medical research out there that's anti-gun, and we tear it apart and we critique it, and then we published it. We have a website, drgo.us. We're also on Facebook and a lot of the other social media. We also have a physician patient matching service called 2adoc.com. If you're looking for a Second Amendment friendly physician or healthcare provider, you can apply there and see if we can't find somebody for you. And if you're a healthcare provider, sign up as a provider. It's free, by the way, too, and private.
And the other thing I'd like to point out, it's not searchable. So if you're a provider and you're worried about signing up and then all the anti-gunners coming to attack you, that's not going to happen.
Absolutely not.
Good.
Matt, on our way out, meet the pressers. Anything you want to talk about there, you want to plug, or what's coming up, or what's just been released?
For sure. We actually just released an interview with Eric Pratt. So Gun Owners of America, that was last Saturday. We put that out. So check that out. Gun Owners of America is the one that brought the lawsuit against New York State recently because of the CCIA law that they just passed. And that was a good interview. We've got, obviously, Ellen Gottlieb. We just interviewed him as well. That'll be coming up next weekend. So it was the Polka Dot Princess. Cheryl Todd and myself interviewed both those gentlemen. We also have Dr. Lott. We just interviewed Dr. Lott. That'll be coming up after that episode. And then we've got Charlie Cook and I are doing the live show coming up again starting next week. And we're hoping to have Stephen Williford and Jack, the Texas shootings, both the individuals from the Texas shooting. So those are the live shows. And then, of course, PSNed, my travel schedule with teaching classes all over the country, psned.com.
Very cool. On my part, I would like to encourage everybody to tune in tomorrow, 5 p.m. Central Time. Tom Walls, it's Training Friday. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about, strangely enough, what do you need to consider when you're going to be taking somebody out and training them to shoot for the very first time? If they've never touched a gun, what do you need to keep in mind? We're going to be talking about that tomorrow. Come join us 5 p.m. Central Time, and Saturday at noon for the weekend edition of The Bullet. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you next time.